All right, Computer Studies 10. We are going to be following some instructions here to make our project. So I just wanted to go over them with you. First step is you just got to log in to MakeCode Arcade. Make yourself a new project. Not too hard to do. We've done this a few times. We're going to name it Sprites in the corner, although you're going to come up with your own unique name by the end of the project, but you got to figure out what your story is first. So just call it this for now, then we can get practice renaming things. Here we are in our editor, and wanted to go over just a couple of details. So first of all, we're going to be creating sprites, and they are going to have their own original artwork, and you're going to be setting their position, and you're going to be creating their names as well. We're also going to be focusing on what kind they are. So we're going to make sprites that are of kind player, kind enemy, and then food and projectile as well. So let's take a look at how we can do these things. I won't go over every single possibility. I'll just kind of quickly show you one example, and hopefully that'll be enough for you to finish off the rest. Feel free to ask people around you if you're having trouble. Okay, so here we go. This is something we've already used before. It's, do this, create a sprite thing. So first of all, when I say make a unique name, I mean, don't just call it my sprite. We're going to have a bunch of sprites, and if they're all named my sprite, well, that's going to be a problem because we're going to tell my sprite to do something and they will all do it. So you just have to drop down this list and say rename variable, or you can create new variable name. Actually, I'm not sure what the difference is. I've been noticing if I rename the variable, I can end up having they all kind of the variables stick together. When I change one, a bunch of them change. So maybe make new variable be the best way. So I'm going to call this one the hero sprite because this is going to be of type player, and that's my first kind. And later on, you're going to make of various ones. I'm just going to duplicate this. If I wanted to make a villain sprite, I can make a different kind of sprite. I can make an enemy sprite, for example. This one needs to also have a new name. So I'll make a new variable, and I'll call it a villain sprite. See how this works? So I can rename the sprites by clicking this and just say new variable to create a new variable for a new sprite. And I can change their kinds by checking on the drop-down list. A kind is going to be a category of sprites, and they give you 4 defaults here, which are common to a lot of games. A lot of games have a player, enemies, projectiles, right? And then food is like something that you can collect. This probably have a positive benefit for you. We can also create our new kinds, which we'll do later, but not today. Just make 4 sprites, 1 of each kind, and make sure that they're named uniquely. Okay, so that's going to get you through a lot of the early parts of the project. I should also mention you click on this box to design your own sprite. Have fun with that. Make them look dope. And they don't have to be people. They can be aliens. They can be whatever you want them to be. Have some fun. Have some fun with it. Let's see, what's the next thing you might get stuck on? Well, making the move to the corners. So you're supposed to, when you create these sprites, you're supposed to make them go to places. So you probably have noticed you can set positions of sprites. The thing you got to watch out for, though, is you got to set a particular sprite, right? Look, it gave me a little error there. It's like exclamation mark and a triangle. There's no such sprite as my sprite. So I have to choose which sprite it is, right? So I'm going to choose hero sprite. And then you're going to position them in different places. This is a really helpful little guide to help you get them into the positions. So you'll want to put them into the 4 different corners. I cheated a little bit. I didn't quite put them in the corners because there's not enough room for dialogue, but just put them, roughly, in the 4 different, quadrants of the screen. If you would imagine to divide your screen into 4 by splitting it vertically and horizontally down the middle, get your sprite sort of in those quadrants. All right, so that takes us through the first half of the assignment. So feel free to pause me right now and just go and do those things. And I have a little checklist for you to look over things to make sure that your project is doing all the right things. So once you're ready, unpause me, and here we go. So the next thing is going to be putting in a little story for your sprites. Mine had a little splash screen that had the story thus far kind of introduction. So if you want to do something like that, then you can go to the game drawer. The game drawer has lots of things to experiment with. if we scroll around at the very bottom, we have show long text. Long text is great because what it will do is you could keep typing and typing. You could type a whole novel in here, and you can decide, you can anchor it to different places. Doesn't matter for the project, but it's up to you to decide where that goes. And then it'll just show you kind of one screen at a time. And when you press A, it'll advance to the next part of the story. So you just type it all in this box, and then the person can press A to go through the whole story, you've done this in a video game probably before, where you're just like button mash, I don't care, go, just get through the story. But you'll compose a story of some enjoyableness, such that I won't want to skip ahead. I won't want to see it. You don't have to go overboard with it, but do, think of what the setting is, and you can always add in some other things like a background. We did that from scene. We did that in a previous project. You can add a drawing of a background, at least set the color. All right, so you can put that at the beginning. I'll just put in some text, blah, blah, blah. So when we start our project, you can see like blah, blah, blah. It shows up, and I can press, A and move on. My sprites aren't visible yet, so, you'll have to work on that. This is not a project. This is just the basics. Don't want to waste your time with, showing you a whole project when I'm sure you guys will be able to do it. Yeah, so that's the long text block. And now you're going to make the sprites talk and have a conversation. Without spoiling too much, I think I'll just slide over. Just give me a second here. Yeah, let's just jump on over. I'll show you my golden apple here. So this is how I'm doing my talking. So you can find the pause in the loops drawer, and you can find the sprite say whatever in the sprite drawer. And the thing is to make sure that you are, having some, text come from a character. You can press the plus sign to make sure that the text stays out for a certain amount of time. And then you can have a pause that will delay. You'll notice that I'm using 2000 for the talking and 4000 for the pause. I just want to let you know right now that the pause begins as soon as the previous, block of code begins. So in other words, this 2000 timer will start, and it will say the blah, blah, blah. And then, this one will also start at the same time. So really what I have here is a 2 second, 2000 milliseconds equals 2 seconds. 2 seconds for the person to say, and there'll be another 2 seconds, because I've already used up 2 of the 4 seconds here with the saying, before the next person goes. So it'll be like, talk for 2 seconds, pause for 2 seconds. Because this pause starts at the beginning of that block. It's a little bit annoying. I kind of wish it would just be like this one would hold it up and then this one would go next. But that's how it works. Sometimes I have 3000 because I want the text to come faster. And, these are pretty long. I actually think I would change these. They're a little bit, you're kind of waiting for the person to talk. We can probably speed it up. So that's kind of how I'm structuring it. Just make yourself a wonderful story. I have a little bit of a, after, setting my positions and things, I have a pause so that they don't immediately just start blabbing. I want to be able to appreciate the setting a little bit, all that work I put in, to designing it. And so that's the story there. And then they can just start, talking and chatting and all that kind of stuff. So there you go, folks. So that is basically the components of the project. Once you're done, you're going to be handing it in to a Teams assignment, which I'll be putting on the Teams general channel. And this is going to be the marking scheme. So basically the criteria is just all the things we talked about. You can look in the checklist, but I've just summarized it all here. So just make sure you've done these things. It's just yes or no. Did you do them? That's worth 60%. And then I got a 40% quality measure. It's very subjective. So if you're like, oh, what's Mr. P think about the quality of my project? Just put in effort. I understand you're, be working on this for about a class, so I understand it's not gonna be a masterpiece, but I'd like to see some effort put into it. I won't, I'll see how did you use your class time. Did you go all the way to the end, or are you playing, games halfway through? So just use your class time fully to get this project done. And then last but not least, did you experiment and go beyond the criteria? That'll make the difference between like a 90% and 100%, right? So if you put some experiments in there, or you just kind of do a great job, you just kind of put your heart into it and hand in something good, that'll get you to the full 100%. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, and best of luck with that. And I will be around to assist. Okay, thanks everybody.